Hello, everybody. Okay, so Godzilla X Kong: The New Empire releases worldwide tomorrow. But they've been releasing a lot of spoilers, like not just in the normal trailers, but also people have just been like releasing clips of the movies. So, let's look at some non-spoiler territory. Godzilla X Kong: The Hunted, the official prequel to the New Empire, and I think I'm gonna read this one more time on my way to the theater just for fun. But yeah, I want to break down some things in the comic book, and then just as a breakdown. So starting off, Bernie is, I think that's his name. Isn't that the name, like the new guy, the like podcast dude from GVK? He's in the book, and he's also in the new movie. Um, but basically, something new he does in the book is he's following Godzilla somehow. Like he's just like tracking him and basically just telling them what's happening. He's basically like the narrator of Godzilla's side of the story in this book. Which, before we continue anymore, this book feels like Kong the Hunted plus Godzilla's side story. It doesn't really feel like it doesn't feel like any of them book. I like any of them. It mainly feels just like a short story that happens in between GVK and GXK. And that's a big problem I've heard with GXK, and I'll go over that with my review tomorrow. But yeah. So Bernie, I think is his name, is more of like the narrator of the book. In Godzilla Dominion, they just had a narrator. Like they just explain Godzilla's thoughts. But in this one, Bernie's like explaining like what's basically happening, which is like Godzilla having to deal with the Air Force. And next is Raymond Martin. At the end of the book, we actually get some concept art of his different looks, and I think the design they eventually came up with was pretty good for his character. But basically, his entire character is he just hunts titans, and we see this as in his museum. He has a whole bunch of different titans he's already captured, and most of them are titans from Skull Island. And I'm pretty sure, if I remember, it said that he destroyed Skull Island, like he like took all the monsters. But I don't. Next is the Spine Prowler. It's the one of the only other titans. The titans that are shown in this book is Godzilla, Kong, the Spine Prowler, and then Scylla. The Spine Prowler cubs, but we also see like I guess like dead statues, like dead stuffed statues of titans, but I don't really know other names. I think one of them is like a Muto or a giant turtle. But the Spine Prowler is the monster that attacks Kong at the very beginning of the book. And at the back, we also get a lot of concept art, and there's some pretty cool ones. Like we have the A one, which has more furry texture and more feline, while the B style is harder texture and more reptilian, which is pretty cool. It kind of looks like the Predator from the side. And then we have this one has a added mane. But I think the one they went with is the hairless version, the Triceratops crown. It's a pretty cool idea. I like their original Titans. Scylla's betrayal. That's like a big one. The main Godzilla story follows. Like here's the bag. Here's basically what they say. Before this trap to work, he must keep Godzilla occupied above by pitting him against another Titan in a globe-spanning confrontation that leads directly to Godzilla X Kong: The Empire. And what happens is that Scylla begins attacking radiation plants, and she actually begins evolving throughout the book. After her first look, we see that she's like has more reddish, and by the time we get to the final panel with Godzilla, where he's about to go and like attack Scylla, it actually ends where the movie is going to continue. And that's another thing. On Godzilla's side of the story, it ends with to be continued in Godzilla X Kong: The Empire, while Kong's side of the story ends with just ends. Like after like the story's complete, but it doesn't say anything. So I think Raymond like made Scylla like with a beacon, I think it was, to betray Godzilla and start evolving, and that's why Scylla is so much bigger in the movie, is because she's been evolving using radiation. And Godzilla fails a lot in this book. That's like his main thing. He keeps on failing. Like, he fails to stop Scylla multiple times. Next is probably my favorite detail in the book, and it's like the only real thing that kind of connects this to Godzilla X Kong the New Empire, besides the Godzilla ending, like the Godzilla side story ending. So in the book, the top of the Hollow Earth begins to like shake. I think it's kind of hard to tell, but Kong jumps into a cave and he begins looking around. And he finds some bones, but then he drops his axe as he finds some cave paintings of. In the top left, I think it's a skull crawler and a warbat fighting. Then he sees Godzilla and the Ion Dragon, and then he sees the Godzilla and Kong fight, and then he sees Godzilla and Shimo fighting, and Kong just stares at it, and that's the end. That's the end. Then it goes to the side story with Raymond and his giant robot. But it's an okay book. Like, I'm also gonna give my thoughts on it. The book, there's a big problem with everything that like has came out after Godzilla King of the Monsters. And that's like them not really focusing on Godzilla as much, besides like despite the fact that he's the one that kind of started the entire monsterverse. Like, Godzilla versus Kong, he was not very shown much. It was more of like a Kong focused movie. And I think the only project after that was Godzilla Dominion that focused primarily on Godzilla. Every frame has Godzilla. So I like that comic book. But then in this book, Godzilla's not shown as much. He doesn't really get his own story. All he does is chase down Scylla, and then it hypes him up for the fight against Scylla. And it feels primarily focused on Kong, as Kong's the main one that gets a story. I think they should have done what they did with GVK and split the two stories up into like a Godzilla. Like maybe they could have done like Godzilla X Kong the Hunted and then called it like part 1 Betrayal, or like part 1 and then it's like Godzilla side story. Or like maybe we could have called like one Godzilla the Hunted and called the other one Kong the Hunted, right? Maybe Godzilla Reign, or Reign of Godzilla, right? Godzilla King of the Titans or something. It sounds kind of dumb, but I think we should have split it up into 2 books. Like, have a Godzilla comic book, have a Kong comic book. They're both the same length. They're about like the length of this one, and they like give both of the Titans their main story. And I think the main reason this one focuses primarily but GXK, judging on early things that I've heard, Godzilla's not in the movie as much, and the film should be called Kong X Godzilla. Like, Godzilla's not a main feature in the film, sadly. Haven't seen it yet. I'll give my thoughts on it when I eventually able to see it. But I think that the fact that Adam Wingard, despite him being a Godzilla fan, he seems to be more of a Kong fan, not gonna lie, sadly. So hopefully in Godzilla X Kong 3, which he said that might happen, Godzilla's the main character for that one. Because, again, Godzilla's not stupid. Like, I think the main reason they follow Kong is because he's more human-like. He's able to be more of a protagonist. While Godzilla, he's just a giant lizard, they say. But I think that if you're able to get these two to team up at least once, then Godzilla has to at least be as smart as Kong. So I think Godzilla is able to be a good protagonist, but that's if they were able to give him the ability to be a protagonist, so even give him the chance. But anyway, that's another discussion for the actual movie's release. This book, I'm going to give it like a 7 out of 10. It's definitely not the best one. I don't know. It's pretty good, but it isn't like amazing. I'd say Godzilla Dominion is still like the best comic out of the entire series. I have not read the Kong comics. I might need to get those so I can actually like make an opinion. But Godzilla X Kong the Hunted, not very good. It isn't like amazing or anything. More of like a meh comic. More of like in the middle. So anyway, that was Godzilla X Kong the Hunted. Yeah. I forgot to add this in the video. I was rereading the comic and I found some more parts I wanted to speak about in the review. The main thing is that I wanted to go over was the main villain of the story. What's his name? It was like Raymond. Yeah, I think it was Raymond. Raymond Martin. Okay, that's what his like concept art name is. But basically what he does is he hunts titans, and the reason he does this, it's explained in his backstory that takes place in 2014, because everything takes place in 2014. I think they're like connecting, like maybe they could have connected to something else, like maybe his father died I don't. But it's explained in a 1954 flashback where he's younger before he has all the scars. And basically, what he's shown in Las Vegas or San Francisco, but he's shown in his family's tower, and then a Muto appears and he basically destroys it, killing his entire. Besides him, he lives with the scars. Yeah. So he's just like a really rich guy who was there during the 2014 thing. But the next thing I wanted to go over was Hollow Earth travel. In the book, there's a part where Raymond heads all the way into the Hollow Earth. Through an access point, and that's where he starts hunting all the Titans in the Hollow Earth. Now, where we left off in this universe, which was Godzilla versus Kong, Hollow Earth travel was they were just now being able to do it. They were just now being able to do it, and now I'm guessing this takes place in 2028 or 2029, wherever. I think it takes place right before Godzilla X Kong. I forgot what time it is. When does GXK take place? Yeah, when? I think it takes place in 2029. I'm just gonna say 2029. So that means it's been 5 years. There's a 5-year difference. I think there's a coincidence that every 5 years something happens. But so that means in 5 years they have normalized Hollow Earth travel, and I can see that being in Monarch and Apex and stuff. But to be able to just a really rich guy that I cannot find any references that he's connected to Monarch, because why would he be connected to a company that's wanting to study the monsters instead of killing them? So what I think I think it's just a little weird that this random rich guy who seemingly doesn't have any connections to Monarch or anything is able to Hollow Earth travel. So I don't know. Maybe he's connected to Apex somehow. That could be a cool idea, but I don't know. But there is a part where he basically explains, and he says something about how it doesn't matter how many times I do this, it will always be normal to me. Something the opposite of that. He was I've done this so many times, it's basically normal. So he has to have done it multiple times. Right? That was just something I forgot to add in yet. So see you guys tomorrow, I think.